AI ambition is everywhere, but turning it into a real production-ready application, that's where best practices can make the difference. In today's session, you'll discover how SAP BTP AI best practices help you move from ideas to execution. Welcome everyone to today's live expert session. We are thrilled to have you join us. Today is the last episode of our SAP BTP Architect the Future overview series, but we'll continue next week with our first episode of our deep dive series on the core capabilities of SAP BTP. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Marco Cigaina and Luis Marquez. Marco is the Chief Operating Officer and Program Manager in the SAP BTP AI Services Center of Excellence. I had to really practice that name. With a strong background, he is an innovation and program manager, as well as a consultant, advisor, and researcher. He brings a wealth of experience to the table. His work spans innovation management, technology, and enterprise architecture, and the delivery of strategic initiatives. He is also a published thought leadership author, sharing insights on emerging trends and enterprise transformation. Luis is a lead AI architect in the SAP BTP AI Services Center of Excellence, with 15 plus years of experience helping enterprises adopt scalable AI solutions with confidence. He has led initiatives across startups and global enterprises, with a strong focus on quality, scalability, and business value. Most recently, he co-created the SAP's AI Best Practices platform and has been driving reusable AI architecture and enterprise AI adoption at scale. And now, without further ado, over to you, Marco.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anya. And hello, everybody. Warm welcome from my side to the session. As mentioned, I'm Marco Cigaina. I'm the CEO and Program Manager of the BTP AI Services COE in SAP. And here, together with my colleague Luis Marquez, we would like to give you an introduction and an overview of the SAP BTP AI best practices as a way to move from strategy to the concrete implementation of BTP application powered by AI. So first of all, why do we need in the first place BTP AI best practices? Well, first, the AI landscape is broad, and is evolving rapidly. We all know AI is a broadly applicable and transformative technology. There are new models practically every week. There is a shift from mere large language models to multimodal reasoning models, and new application patterns emerge, and new standards like the agent-to-agent integration protocol, for example. So staying current requires best practices. Second, also our SAP BTP AI stack is rapidly evolving. Practically every quarter we have new features, sometimes even new components, so a new BTP AI stack. So best practices ensure that we leverage new features effectively. And third, as a consideration, due to the broadness of AI, AI knowledge is typically spread across various sources. So think health.com, GitHub, Learning Journey, the Discovery Center, SAP Notes. Considering these consolidated best practices provide a single reliable point of reference. So what are BTP AI best practices? Well, we define them as a well-organized, consistent, comprehensive set of proven development guidelines to develop AI-powered BTP-based applications. So example of that, just to give you a sense of it, could be how to choose the size of chunks for vector-based retrieval augmented generation, how to do data masking in access to large language models, or how to deploy custom AI models, etc. But we had a broader perspective in mind on this. first of all, we had in mind to provide an integration of the functional and technical view. I explain this better in a minute. And second, is not just about API and SDKs, but it's all about the key design and implementation choices, the recommendations, and the rationale of those recommendations. Now, our conceptual view of best practices is based on the idea that AI use cases leverage AI capabilities. And you can also call those capabilities AI functional patterns. And this is a completely functional view about what AI does and not how it works. And then those use cases are implemented in BTP AI applications that leverage concrete AI models. And best practices describe how that happens. And we have taxonomies for each of these layers. So the first taxonomy is one that lists and clusters the different AI capabilities from a functional point of view. For example, summarizing text, translating text, classify information in categories, perform sentiment analysis. These are capabilities that belong to a conceptual group called analyze and process information. Or you can streamline content creation, so you can generate text based on generic or proprietary knowledge bases. You can review and refine text. Another category would be AI used to simplify access, to have conversational interaction with applications or with analytics. Decision support, so provide recommendation based on historical data, clustered data, forecasting values, detect anomalies, etc. Providing code assistance, not just generating code, but also generate synthetic data, generate code, review code, document code, generating test scripts, etc. And last but not least, provide agentic workflows. And this is then the way we organize best practices. So on the one side, we have generative AI with directed and orchestrated access to foundation models, retrieval augmented generation, both vectors and graph-based, and the emerging agentic AI, so both content-based agents and code-based agents. On the other side, we have predictive AI with best practices on how to use and adapt or create and deploy narrow predictive models for regression, time series forecasting, classification, recommendation, clustering, anomaly detection, etc. And then we also have SAP AI business services like Document Grounding, Translation Hub, Document AI, and the recently added SAP RPT-1 relational pre-trained transformer model. Now, what we delivered and published so far externally is this list of best practices. So access to generative AI models, prompt templating, data masking, content filtering, vector-based retrieval augmented generation, embedding and query pipeline, knowledge graph-based retrieval augmented generation, creation and query, regression, time series forecasting, anomaly detection, classification, clustering, training and deployment of custom AI models, document AI, custom use skills, document grounding, and SAP Translation Hub. So here on the right, you have the link and the QR code to our external site. Of course, we will share it. And before we show you a live demo of those best practices, let me give you a short explanation of those. And then again, we will take you shortly through the site. So the first best practice is access to generative AI models. This is probably the most used of all. It's about providing secure and efficient access to foundation model, in particular, large language models. It's about defining the prompts, the model, and the parameters that control the response generation And then it's about the ways to send requests to retrieve those generated responses. Second best practice is prompt templating, which is basically a method used to create structured and reusable prompts for large language models. That involves converting static prompts into dynamic templates. Dynamic templates by using variables that can be replaced with actual value at runtime. And this approach is important because it turns prompts into artifacts with their own life cycle in a way that they can be reused efficiently across different tasks and applications. Next is data masking. In a nutshell, this is a data protection technique to protect sensitive information. It involves replacing identifiable and confidential data within prompts with placeholder text. And this ensures that this information is not exposed to third-party models. We can then move on with content filtering. Content filtering is a best practice about embedding content safety into generative AI workflows. It is based on specialized machine learning models and configurable safety policies that are applied both at input and output. In input, detecting and blocking inappropriate, biased, or harmful content, avoiding it enters the AI pipeline, and in output to ensure that the output always meets safety and regulatory standards. Vector-based retrieval augmented generation embedding is then about making unstructured information ready to be queried, so to say, by LLM and generative AI application. And that happens in 3 steps. Number one, unstructured information is split in chunks. Every chunk is converted into a vector, and vectors are stored in a vector database. And then vector-based retrieval augmented generation query pipeline is about building applications that leverage those vectors you store in the vector database by, first of all, converting the prompt of your user into a vector, then launching a similarity search to retrieve relevant document chunks, and then augment context with the retrieved chunks, and then generate the response. There is also a variant of this retrieval augmented generation called graph-based RAG. And the first best practice on this is how to build the knowledge graph on a specific domain as a foundation for retrieval augmented generation. So with that, you get a clear and organized view of your data that shows how the key concepts are connected. And then what you do, with graph-based retrieval augmented generation query pipeline, you leverage this graph you created with graph-based queries that ensure a precise and semantically rich retrieval, improving the relevance of LLM responses. And those responses can be linked back to specific triples, entities, and paths in the graph, making results interpretable and auditable. We also publish best practices on predictive AI based on kind of key types. First one being regression, which is about finding the best fits through a set of data points, which essentially summarize the relationship between variables. And this is also achievable with RPT-1. Time series forecasting, which basically is about identifying patterns like trends, seasonality, and cycles in data that are collected at regular intervals, like daily, monthly, etc. Along this line, we have anomaly detection. So the process of identifying data points, events, or patterns that deviate significantly from the expected or normal behavior. We have classification, which is basically about organizing input data into distinct predefined classes points. That's also something that RPT-1 can achieve. Clustering, which is about grouping similar data points in a way that makes large data sets easier to analyze and interpret. Training and deploying custom predictive model, which is basically a multi-step process, if you want, that includes model development, training, evaluation, and then container-based deployment in the AI core. Document AI, another frequently used best practice, where document AI basically gives an end-to-end document processing solution, which helps automate the extraction of structured and unstructured information from your business documents. Custom Juice skills, which is in a nutshell is about extending Juice functionality with deterministic functions in the low-code SAP Build Joule Studio environment. Document grounding. With document grounding, basically you directly connect enterprise document sources like Amazon S3, SharePoint, SAP Document Management Service, and SAP Warzone, or SFTP file service. And basically the service automatically handles the ingestion, the chunking, and the embedding, creation, and retrieval. And finally, the SAP Translation Hub, which in a nutshell helps to translate software and business documents at scale. So you can translate documents with AI using machine translation engines or large language models, and translate software and user interfaces text using multiple sources. So as mentioned, we released all those best practices on an external site for customer and partners. And you have here the QR code. We will share, of course, the link. And at this point, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Luis, so for a walkthrough through our site. Luis?
No, thank you very much, Marco. So I'll take over the presentation at this point. And this is exactly the link that Marco was showing. I pasted this link on the chat if you want to access it directly. Just a quick mention. So this is integrated into the SAP Discovery Center, where it's one of the many resources that you can find here in this Discovery Center, being this one. And of course, so the BTP AI best practices, and I'll give you to give you an introduction of what we're going to do. So I'll give you an introduction to the website, how it works. I'll give you an introduction to some of the best practices that we have here. I'll try to show you some details, maybe even in the code, if we have time for that. So we'll start with a brief introduction here. So the website, when you arrive, you can see that it is defined in two very different sections. So there is this functional view and there is the technical view. The functional view is directed more for functional people or for process architects, so people that don't code as much. So this is kind of a translation layer that we created to enable business people to talk in business terms, but use these specific terms and those make the connection between the business and the technical. For example, when we talk to customers, many know about RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and the LLMs, but what about the functionalities that it does? What are the capabilities? So this set of capabilities, this big list that we've created, for example, summarization of text, translation, sentiment analysis, a conversational interaction, then recommendation based on historical data, and so on. So there are many AI capabilities that exist. So if we enable business people with the knowledge that these are the capabilities, so we are giving them the vocabulary to express their ideas. So this is very important in that sense. And we can jump into each one of these. For example, the summarization of text. There's some quick description about it, an example, and then some key questions that can help us create use cases out of it. And the big thing that we added here is that we not only have this list of AI capabilities, but then we have an implementation section in each one of them, and it connects directly to the best practices, technical best practices that are necessary to make this happen. So this, if we jump in, it's just basic. So to do some summarization, it's a very simple thing. It's just you just need a foundational model access and you do it. So here you can also do, of course, prompt templating, data masking, and content filtering, especially for the security, data masking and content filtering. But the key thing is that now you have it here exactly the best practices that you need to build this, and we can jump into one of those. So this would be the technical content. And as you can see, so this is a best practice page, but it is locked by a login screen. It is not paid content, it is totally free. You just need to log in with your SAP account. So I'm going to click this login button, and I'm just logged in with my SAP account. So it is very quick. So going back to the start, so we were here on the functional view. We jumped in. We took a look at all of these AI capabilities that enables business people to speak AI in terms that the technical people can understand, but also gives them the vocabulary needed to create AI use cases. And now we also have this technical view. So this would be the next step. So in this technical view, we've separated AI by concept. We have everything about generative AI inside of this section. Everything for narrow AI or the predictive AI is for this other section. Then we have specific AI services that SAP provides, and we're going to release soon this agentic AI section. To give you a quick overview of all of this, I'm going to start with the AI services. So I'm going to start backwards. So on the AI services, so we have here the services that SAP provides. So we got the SAP Document AI, basically is document information extraction. So all the information on how to use the SAP Document AI service is here. Also for custom Joule skills, Joule is, of course, the copilot from SAP. In each best practice, as you can see, there are steps that each best practice has, and there are content also here on the site. We have a teaser, a webinar, and you even have the PDF of that webinar. So going back, also have the best practice for the SAP Translation Hub. It's also an SAP service, so there's a lot of content here. So this would be on the services side. On the narrow AI or predictive AI, if I jump in, we've got a lot of more of the classical AI. We got best practices for doing regression, for time series forecasting, classification, and so on. Similar to, just like Marco explained previously. But we not only have this, but we also have here more on how we prepare data for them for model evaluation, and also how do we train and deploy custom AI models. So there's a very detailed and very exhaustive list of very directed information that we've created here. And to continue this overview, we're going to jump into the generative AI. That's something that most of people know nowadays. It's the LLM's way of using AI, the large language models. So here we separated the generative AI into different sections. So we got the plain or foundational model access, and then we got RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. So the plain foundational model access is just using a simple LLM directly. And using RAG is having some mechanism or some way in the middle that enables us to give more context and more information to the LLM for it to provide a better answer. And we got some ways to do that. For example, we've got document grounding. It's also an SAP service that simplifies the whole RAG setup process into a single system. Then we got the vector database, how to create embeddings and do the query pipeline. And we even have best practices on knowledge graphs. To show you how a best practice looks, I'm going to jump into this first one. So access to generative AI models. So for you to see how this looks, we got the 4 steps I've explained previously. So we got the overview first, and at any moment you have this button here that enables you to download the source code for this specific best practice. So we are including source code and on this best practice, on all of the best practices, and most of the best practices also have source code as with a starter template of a project that already follows the best practices that we know on, so that you can use it as a starter template for your projects. Like a bootstrap project. I'm going to jump into that just a little bit later. So for each best practice, we got a description, expected outcome, and the benefits. For example, for this first one, for getting access to the generative AI models, it is very simple. It's just getting access to the models, but they're also a part of it. So, for example, if you use the SAP SDK, there's very easy model interchangeability. You can change very easily between the models. There's a lot of out-of-the-box features, for example, the data masking and prompt templating, and also content filtering. So the 2 of these are security features. And then, of course, this is also fully integrated into the SAP ecosystem. Now that the first step is the overview, so the second one is just the prerequisites. So what do you need? What do you need in your system or on your setup to really have to be able to build production level quality applications using SAP AI Core? So first of all, you of course need, we separated this into 2 different sections. So the commercial ones, and there's a pricing details here. So commercially, so there's the SAP AI Core, like with the extended tier. We can jump into this link to also create to do the pricing to select the pricing and get the calculated use the calculator to do the calculations and see the pricing out of it. But then we got these technical prerequisites. So the first thing that you need, it's the BTP account. We also created here a setup guide for that, and you need SAP AI Core. So most people already have a BTP account, but the new thing is the SAP AI Core. So I'm going to jump into that. So if I open this, the setup guide, I'm already on this section on the setup. And as you can see, this is a full page just for AI Core. But we are here on the setup guide. And if we've added here a recommended learning journey for setting this up. We also included other, but this is the recommended one. So we can click it. And we are just in a learning journey that we can just follow step by step to do this configuration. So we just go on how to provision it. It shows all the steps, step by step, create a service plan. The important part for having AI Core with all the features is to select the extended version. That's the key thing when you enable AI Core. And as you continue, and then when you arrive, when you have that service running, usually come here, create the service key, and then you generate the service key and you get the credentials that you can use to create your projects. I can show you some example here. Maybe I have to refresh the page. So here I'm on BTP, on a sub account on BTP. I've got a lot of instances running here, but if I go here to instances, I got this AI Core, as you can see here. And it has the extended plan. And in this, we have a lot of credentials, so we use this in a different ways. And that step, all of those steps just to get here so that you can get your credentials. We could create some new here. We don't need to, but it is very simple. And then you just copy and paste those credentials to your projects or use Cloud Foundry for the login system. But I'll show that a bit later. Okay, so we followed all of this tutorial. We already set up everything, so we can close the AI Core one. So we got all the prerequisites are now complete. This is the architecture diagram on how an application usually works. So we get the end user. The end user uses an application client. In this case, it is the web browser that accesses a web page. It's the HTML front end. And then using that HTML front end, the user using authentication, of course, can access the backend. And this is the backend. Usually this is the CAP app. And this is the backend of that application. And on this application logic, it's where we have our credentials to use AI Core, and we do the requests to the LLMs that are protected by AI Core. So the request goes here into the SAP AI Core, and where we can not only access from the foundational model, access models from partners or from Azure, OpenAI, from Anthropic, but we also can access SAP hosted foundational models. So it is a very simple architecture. The third step, it's really the best practices themselves. So the key choices and the guidelines. So how do we choose a model? What are the steps? We even provide here a lot of links on how to do it. So for example, the list of available models. This is a very key link that you can find. So it's an SAP note where we keep track of all the models that you have access to. So when a model is released, it will be added to this list. If it's not available yet, it's not on this list. So here are all the models, all the versions that you have access to. You can also compare models using our model library. So this is a link for SAP Help. And you on the SAP Launchpad, if you have that enabled. So I'm going to demo that here. So you can take a look at all the models that I have available. I can take a look at them as a leaderboard, for example, for text generation or for speech to text. And I can see the benchmarks, and I can compare which model is best for what. We can even show them as a chart here. So all of this to show you that here on these key choices and guidelines, we took a lot of effort to provide you exactly all the resources that you need in one place. So as you could see, we open an SAP help page, we open an SAP note, there's a lot of content in different places, and we are aggregating everything in here. Of course, how to set up the settings. Okay, but that's just more details on the best practice, and for sure you can jump into this by yourself. Okay, so the final step on the best practices is the implementation. So here is where we show or we give you what are the programming model selection and guidelines. We provide you code for Python, for TypeScript, for CAP using TypeScript, and even for Java. And here for each one of the tabs, we provide you the recommended SDK that you want to use, some tutorials, learning journeys, and even reference code. Reference code that you've created ourselves, and also reference code from the SDK itself. And at the end, we provide this relevant code. It's just the key piece of code that you need for this specific best practice. In this case, it's just a simple chat completion request that we do. So it's a very simple one. And we are setting up the parameters, the max tokens, temperature, and so on. Here at the bottom, we even provide you a list of example projects and use cases that are open source that we've created. For example, there's agentic email automation, an AI-powered email cockpit, utilities tariff mapping. So there's a lot of use cases that we've built that are open source, and we provide all of that here. We also link required best practices, and then the related AI capabilities to this specific AI best practice. Of course, the contributors for this, for all of this, are also on the bottom. So thank you to every single one of these people. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at this best practice, I was going to jump into the code but before we jump into the code, I've shown you this section on the example projects and use cases, and this is part of a different website. So for example, I can click this agentic email automation, and it links me to this website where I can play a video. So this is the full idea, the challenge, the solution, the benefits, the whole thing about this open source project. And we have a demo video that we can play so that you can learn more about this example. You can at any time download the source code for this example, and there's even a live preview that you can play with this example. So here we have the usage instructions on the side, and we can just, in this case, just click one button, and it will run this agent and show you the output of it. So this is just a simple email agent that takes decisions based on the different tools that it has access to. For example, there's a very big execution log for this agent, and you can see everything here. Okay, so now that I've seen you that we have these example projects and use cases, I also, if you go to here to services in this same website, you can also do this search. So if you have an idea or a use case, you can just do a search for the use case that you want, and you should be able to find it on the whole list of the projects that we have open source. Okay. So now back here to the best practice. So at any of these best practices, so I've shown you the generative AI models, there's the prompt templating, data masking, content filtering, and also the RAG ones. For example, the knowledge graph is so interesting. This is a really good one. It explains you everything from each of the concepts. What is a triple? So there's the how to create the ontology, what about it? So it's a very complex topic, and it's so well structured here. We provide this diagram on how to create the whole process to generate the knowledge graph. And not only that, we provided the full code on how to do it and all the steps. But going just back to the key best practice that we are the first one or the simplest one, you can at any point click this download source code button, and it will bring you to this SAP samples repository. As you can see, I'm already inside of a folder of this repository. And just the folder exactly for the exact folder for this best practice, where we have examples for CAP, Java, Python, and TypeScript. And we have README files for each one of those. For example, I can open this CAP one. So there's the full README. On CAP, we have two examples, just a backend one and a full stack. You can open the full stack. And this CAP example is really a starter template that you can use to build high quality applications. So here's the full setup guide on how to do it. So how to set up the local development and the whole thing. If we have time, I'll show you this. So on this repository, if we jump into the root, we can see that it's just a simple repository. There's some instructions there, and you see that it is separated into two different sections. There's the best practices, and then there are use cases. So the code for all of those use cases that I've shown you there that are open source, so everything is here. So there's a massive list of open source use cases that we have here and that you can get access to. But not only that, so here on the best practices side, if we open this, it's organized in the same way that we have the best practices page. So if we go here to the best practices, technical view, as you can see, has this organization. And here on the repository, we have the same organization. We can jump into, for example, generative AI. Here are the generative AI ones. We jump into the first one, access to generative AI models. And here we are in the code. Okay, now I'll jump just a little bit deeper to give you a bit more sense on how does this look like. So here I have a text editor. It's VS Code. I'm using it to demo you how it looks or how the code looks. So we get the use cases that I've shown you, and then there are these best practices. Going to generative AI, access to generative AI models, and here we have the code for all the types of scenarios. For example, for Python, we have multiple options. We got for using LangChain, the native implementation, the orchestration. In this case, I recommend you use your orchestration because it's the simplest one. You can just set it up once, just put the LLM there, define the template, and then you run it. It's a very simple thing. Another example that we have here, so for TypeScript, it's a very simple example. Also, if we take a look at the README file, you get all the instructions on how to do this. So clone repository, npm install, the .env file. This is the key part that I've shown you before. So I'll open this .env example. As you can see, this is AI core service key. So in this case, it's just exactly that service key that I had here on BTP. I open these service keys. So I'm going back, let me open. So there's this AI core instance that I have. I can open it, and we got all of these keys. We just copy and paste what's inside of these keys, and we can have it in the .env file, and we can use it. And for Python is a similar one. So I'm showing the example for Python, but instead of a key like this, it's just a different variables. Just copy it from there. So the TypeScript example is also very simple. That shows you it's just the simplest one that we could get. So it's just a function. It has the orchestration code so that you can start using this. Now into the CAP one. So this provides you a template on how to build real-world applications for this example. And for example, for this full stack sample, we got the server side and the front end, everything in one place. And we have this README file that we can follow to run this locally. In this case, to set up using CAP to run an application, you first, of course, you have to install the packages. Then you log in into your Cloud Foundry account. And instead of using the credentials in a copy-paste way, you do a binding into the AI core instance name. The AI core instance name, if I go back, it is exactly this name here. In this case, it's DTS AI core extended. And then here, the AI core instance service key name is just the name of the key that you are going to use. And because you log in, you have access to that, and it uses it behind the scenes without you even having to touch the credentials themselves. So here I'm going to run the example. I already have two terminals here ready. I'm going just to run the backend. I've already did the login, so that I don't have to do it now. I'll run the front end. Great. So now it has loaded. So I'm going to grab that window. Here we have a very simple application, just a find capital application. I can click it. And the result is the capital Francis Paris. So it's just a starter example that you can use on any project. Okay, so closing this example, I'm going to hide it. So all the code is present here for all the best practices. Maybe the most difficult best practices, maybe one of those is this knowledge graph where we provide a full Python code. And for these ones, usually we provide the Jupyter notebook so that you can really learn from it while you are playing with the code. Of course, we provide a best practice that goes along with it. So we go back here to the best practices. Going to jump into the knowledge graph creation. So this one has two parts. It's the creation and then the query pipeline. So when you click this button, you go directly to the source code that we have here. And we can follow this Jupyter notebook section by section from the setup of the credentials until really the extracting the triples from the content. We do a visualization of the knowledge graph. Oh, we can see it, how it looks. how to set up HANA for this. Use the SparkQL to store this. And then we have the full knowledge graph created. And we not only have that part, but we also have the part to do the querying itself. So we provide all the functions. We provide examples of scenarios end to end on all the different steps that you need to use, from extracting triples to creating the knowledge graph, to querying it, and even to clear the knowledge graph. So it's a full, complete package that you can just access to and get value from. Okay, so I jumped into the code. I've shown you the functional view, the technical view. We even have here an about page that you can learn more about this project and how you can explore our roadmap. And you can also provide feedback if you have something to tell us or something to report. Feel free to send us feedback. We are very happy to receive it. Okay, so I think that would be pretty much everything from my side. So if we have any questions, I'm very happy to go for that. So thank you very much for your time, and let's continue with the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Luis, and thank you, Marco, as well. We have a couple of questions. Marco, you already answered one, but I would like to read it out anyway. Perhaps you can provide further information. So basically, the best practice is more of an intensive guide with all details needed to build the BTP AI environment, but not as a ready foundation that can be implemented like similar concept of as for BP.
Yeah, I give you my answer, then Luis, please feel free to add. So we are not speaking about configuring a SaaS solution. So we are speaking about building, developing new applications. So what we provide is guidelines. We also provide code that you can download from GitHub directly into your BTP environment. So from that perspective, it's much more than just documentation. There is already working code that can be used as patterns. And in addition, as Luis was showing, we also provide fully functional applications that you can also replicate in your environment. So that's basically what best practices are. Not sure if Luis want to add a view on that, but that's substantially what it is.
Yes, exactly. The objective is really to give you the foundation for you to be able to create quality or production level quality applications. So we give you that foundation out of that. And in most of those best practices, you also get templates or a starter template to just start an application right on the high quality, already with high quality standards in it.
So the code is
Perfect, thank
public,
you.
so feel free, and we invite you actually to use it in your projects.
Yes. So
Thank
I'm
you.
going to paste the code, or I'm going to paste on the chat the link for the first best practice that I've shown. So first
Yes, that would be great.
best practice.
Okay, and the next question, I'll quickly read that one out loud. So if we have AI use cases in our organization, then is there any way we can upload these use cases somewhere and we get full suggestions on how we can realize these use cases that we need and complete plan?
I think
No, sorry, Marco.
I think Marco is frozen.
Can you hear me?
Now you're back again.
Okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
yes.
So I was saying that not in the best practice side, but I shared in the chat the AI for You website. here you have a way to request for SAP customers, of course, you have a way to request a workshop to discuss use cases or generate ideas for high value use cases. So there is a way to request a workshop. That's our way to support the discussion of use cases.
Marco, I'm afraid you need to post the link again because I just added you as moderator. And if you're not a moderator, you cannot add links.
Okay, I will.
Now you should be able.
Oh, I was also putting some links, so I'll replace them.
Yeah, and I just made you moderator as well. So if you could
I will.
All the links now, that would be great.
Absolutely.
And the next question is, in our organization, we're just starting with SAP AI. What is needed in terms of skill set and where to start? Any guidance for us will help. We have use cases ready.
So the skill set that you need in this case, probably the part from AI. If you have skilled developers in building full stack applications, you can get the AI part of it out of these best practices. So you need a team, of course, you need the front end engineer, you need the back end, and you also probably need AI engineer or AI solutions architect. But probably if you need, you can convert some of your existing headcount, some of the people in the team, you can convert them into AI engineers using these best practices. These best practices are really created to provide you the full picture from starting point of just getting access to an LLM, just like I've shown you, until you're able to create a large knowledge graph with a very complex knowledge tree and give it as to the model as in a RAG approach. So there's a full spectrum of complexity of the current AI, and we're going to release soon also the agentic part out of this. So usually, if you have a good team, a very high quality team, and you can give it the necessary resources, you can probably even convert that team into being able to build high quality use cases. But to give you a bit more information on the use cases and how you can test them, you can request a workshop in the link that I pasted there on the chat. And you can even, for example, I'll quickly steal the screen just to show a small thing. So on this link that I've shared here, there's a button here on the top right, request a workshop. And here you have a search box. You can put your use case here, or your problem. For example, I need to automate email, and you click this button to find AI solutions. And we have here a lot of open source use cases that we've already built. So you get recommended some use cases, and you can jump into one of the use cases, and you can download the source code, see the demo, or play with the live demo, the whole thing. So there's a lot of resources here that you can already use.
That sounds really awesome. Great. I think I will try it out myself as some use cases.
Yes,
why not? We invite you to do it, Tanya.
Perfect, I will. Awesome. So I think that was the last question, but I would like to invite everyone, those of you who attend live the session, but also anyone who's watching this video afterwards, if you have any questions, just post it in the comments area underneath this video. And I'm sure Luis and Marco will be happy to help you further.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect, thank you. So with this, no further questions now. I would like to invite you to join us next week for our next deep dive session on core capabilities of SAP BTP. And I wish you a great day, a great evening, depending on where you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.